We're out at the potting bench today talking all about how to start tomatoes now in the winter months so that you can get the most tomatoes possible this summer. So if you have a shorter growing season, maybe it's similar to ours. We live in the Pacific Northwest near Seattle, and we can plant our tomato plants out into the garden typically after Mother's Day, so like mid-May. And we start getting tomatoes the end of July, and then we get bowlfuls of tomatoes until about mid-September. Well, in order for that to happen, we have to start our tomato seeds inside typically in February so that they can get big and bushy and be ready to start blooming the minute they go out into the garden in May. So if you have a short growing season, or maybe you just want to get a jump start on your gardening, and maybe you can hear in the background, Parker is mowing. It's one of those rare sunny winter days, and we're all out here getting everything done as much as possible. So I'm going to show you how to start your tomatoes from seed, how to start them inside, how to grow them under your grow lights. I'll even show you how I move them out into our little greenhouse. You don't have to have a little greenhouse bed in order to do this. We just do that because it helps me spread out some of our seedlings because we have kind of a lot going. And then we have other videos to come that show you how to plant them into your garden. So whether you are just diving into gardening or you're just like, how do I get more tomatoes? Let's go hang out. What you're going to need in order to start your tomatoes. You need some kind of seed starting like cell or a tray, or you can use little tiny pots. You're going to need a label. I love these garden pens. They don't wash off of the labels even when your tags are outside. And then of course you're going to need seeds. Now I really love getting some fresh seeds each year, but you can save the seeds for multiple years. Just know that if you have had your seeds for several years, the germination rate goes down, which means not as many of them are actually going to sprout. So you'll want to just plant a couple per seed cell if you're using older seeds. If you're using fresh new seeds, I would only plant one tomato seed per cell, because then you aren't going to have to deal with having to pull little tiny seedlings apart. When I plant older seeds that I've had for a long time, then I plant 2 seeds per cell. And I know you're looking at it and thinking, there's so much space in this seed cell. Why wouldn't I plant more seeds? Well, don't do it. It makes it harder later. It's better to have a few empty cells where your seeds didn't germinate than to have 5 or 10 tomatoes all growing in the same cell. When you have to separate those little seedlings apart, it disrupts their roots and it kind of makes them upset and not grow as strong. So the main thing you're wanting to do here is you are going to slightly bury your tomato seed in your pre-moistened seed starting mix. If you have never used seed starting mix before, we're going to link another video to this one, or click down into the description because I have another video to show you how to use seed starting mix. You need to hydrate it and get it ready, and there's some other tips I have for you on that. But you want to just slightly bury your seed. The tomato seeds only need to be covered with dirt, maybe 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch of soil. When you look at the seed only wants to be covered by twice as much dirt as it is tall, basically. So this is true for almost every seed. The bigger the seed is, the deeper you want to plant it. Then put the lid on your seed starting tray. This lid is important because it's going to hold the moisture in the soil. Your seeds need 2 things in order to begin growing. One, they need that soil that they're planted in to be moist, because that moisture softens the seed and helps it wake up. And 2, they need to be in a space that is around 65 degrees. I start all of our seeds in the corner of our living room, right over there by that big monstera. I set them on the bench because then I see them and I remember to go and spritz them with water every couple days, because we want that soil that they're planted in to stay really moist. It isn't until they have sprouted, like this, that they go under the grow lights. If you put your seed trays under the grow lights before anything has sprouted, you're most likely going to start growing moss, because your soil is moist and it's activating the live organisms that are in it, and the moss starts to grow. So I just wait until most of the seeds have germinated, then the tray goes under the light, you take the lid off, and here's the thing, you want your seed tray and those seedlings, those little tiny germinated plants, you want them to be about 2 inches away from your grow light. Your grow lights are doing the very best they can to emulate the sun, but they just aren't as strong as the sun. And so you need your plants to be pretty close to them in order to get that full spectrum of light. The next thing is, as soon as your seeds germinate, when they start to grow and you can see that green growth, you're going to notice that most of the plants look really similar. They have a really similar initial first leaf. That is called the first leaf. It's not the true leaves. The true leaves start to grow as the second set of leaves. And this is one of the reasons why I love to plant things in seed trays, because I can watch when they grow. It's really hard if you do it directly out in your garden. Number one, you can't manipulate the environment. So you wouldn't be able to start tomato seeds out in our garden right now. It's just not warm enough. And number two, I can actually see when the seed starts to grow, and I can know that's a tomato seed. As soon as you start to see your seeds begin to grow, you see that green growth coming through, that's when you want to water them with the seedling fertilizer. And you do 1/4 of a teaspoon to a gallon of water when your seedlings are just babies. And then once they get to this point, I'm watering these basil and celosia. Once they get to that point, I do 1/2 teaspoon per gallon. And it's written on the packaging, it tells you exactly what to do. But here's the thing to remember. When you first are trying to germinate your seeds, you want that soil to stay consistently moist. You need it to be that nice, moist environment so that the seeds will germinate. Once your seeds begin to grow, once you get those seedlings, you actually want the soil to dry out in between watering. If you don't let it dry out, you're going to notice that there's a lot of moss growing. That moss starts growing because there's so much moisture in that soil, and the grow lights are shining down on it, and it's going to grow whatever it can in that space, and it'll grow moss if nothing else is growing. Just use a toothpick and kind of scrape the soil up if you notice that moss. You don't want that growing on the top of the soil because it starts to get kind of hard, and it will make it hard for your seeds to grow or continue to grow through it. But it's really helpful because that moss is a sign that your soil is staying too wet. So let it dry out a little bit in between waterings. And then you'll know if your seedlings are like, hey, I'm so thirsty, because they're going to start to look a little bit wilty. But it's really, really good for your seedlings to have some time where their soil is dry and then time where you water them, because that's the natural cycle of what will happen when they go out to the garden as well. Now, I know this is going to sound crazy, but your grow lights need to be on for at least 16 hours a day. And I know you're thinking, what? The sun isn't up for 16 hours a day. You're right, but your grow light is doing the very best that it can to give the plants everything they need, and it takes about 16 hours of these lights being on for that to happen. So we suggest getting a timer. I would never remember to come and turn them on every single morning, and I definitely wouldn't remember to turn them off every night. And your plants need that period of daylight and then where the light is off and they can rest. So get a timer. It will make it so that you really don't have to think very much about the seedlings, except that you're going to want to come and check them every day, because it's amazing how much they grow in just a day or two. And so I don't water ours every day. I don't have to worry about the light coming on and off. The timer does that, but I do come and check them because I want to see what's happening. Are they getting dried out? Is there moss growing? You're checking them to see if they're giving you any signs that they need a little bit of help. Once our tomatoes start to get a little tall and leggy, just like those ones I was just showing you, they're ready to get potted up into the next size of pot. And the reason why you want to do that with your tomatoes is every time you pot them up, you're going to bury the stem a little bit more into the soil. It's going to help them to create more roots and a stronger base so that they can actually produce more fruit. So these right here, those just got potted up a few days ago. I'm about to pot up the ones that are still growing under the grow lights. And these right here, they have been growing for a month. And look at how big they are already. They will get potted up one more time before they actually go out into the garden. And we have a video all about that. It shows you exactly how to do that. We'll put the link down in the description below. But if you have a little garden bed that you can turn into a greenhouse, even though it's winter time still outside right now, the tomatoes are so happy growing in the greenhouse. And it's actually really good for them because they're getting a dose of that real, true sunlight. But it's okay. If you need to keep yours growing under the grow light until they go out into the garden, they're going to be fine. I have grown them under our grow light for months and months in years past, and it's only recently that we created this little greenhouse bed. Now come hang out with us. I'm going to show you exactly how we grow ours and get the most amount of tomatoes in the entire growing season and what we do with them too. We have a full playlist of tomato tutorials over on our channel. Come hang out with us. We're going to show you how we get the most tomatoes possible in a short growing season.